I'll let McLean do introductions, but one thing I want to say, we're going to introduce Andy Brown with Rodale and some of the work that they've done with organic soils. What I think is amazing is that in years of drought, organic can hold more water, and in years of flood, organic can percolate the water, so it all just doesn't run off with the topsoil. We'll let McLean take it from here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, as you mentioned, Annie Brown from Rodale will be the next speaker that we have in our resiliency and climate change session. She oversees all the fundraising for the Rodale Institute. While she's neither a scientist nor a farmer, she's well versed in the vital work of Rodale Institute to heal planetary and human health through the power of regenerative organic agriculture. We talked briefly about their role in helping develop a lot of the regulations and whatnot in the ROC certification. So I'll let Annie take it from here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, great. Again, my name's Annie Brown. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a farmer. I've been with the Rodale Institute, though, since 2012. But the Rodale Institute has been around since 1947. Our founder, J.I. Rodale, actually wrote on a blackboard in 1942, 5 years before we were founded, healthy soil equals healthy food equals healthy people. And that's been our guiding light ever since. There's a picture of J.I. He wasn't a farmer. In fact, he was a businessman from New York City who just wanted to grow healthy food because he was having health problems. And when he went to start to learn how to grow healthy food, he was amazed in the late 1930s that they were telling him to put all these inputs and chemicals onto the soil to grow healthy food. And he said that just didn't compute to him. So he started to investigate indigenous systems and is often thought of as the founder of modern day organic agriculture in this country. So at Rodale Institute, we have three pillars. We have research, education, and consulting. So today I'm going to talk most about our consulting program and a little bit about our education. And I'll talk first about our research. So our focus is on maximizing soil health, growing regenerative organic agriculture, mitigating and adapting to climate change, and improving human health and nutrition. These are our areas of focus. As I mentioned, these are the research projects. We have 30 research projects going on at any one time at the Institute, spanning all of those different systems. We have 15 PhDs on staff currently. And this is our most seminal study. It's the Farming Systems Trial. It was started in 1981, and it was because Bob Rodale, J.I.'s son, was actively going to Washington, D.C. to try to get Congress to create the USDA organic seal. Congress said, hey, I believe you. It seems like organic is a better system. It needs to have certification, but I need to see some proof. So we created the Farming Systems Trial in 1981, and this is side-by-side organic versus conventional. It's a 12-acre, 72 plot focused on grains. And this is after we had a 40-year report that came out, and these are the top-line findings. So in, as Steve mentioned, in times of drought and excessive moisture, organic outperforms conventional. After a 5-year period, organic can meet the same yields as conventional overall. Organic farmers in general earn between 3 and 6 times higher profits. We know, of course, that organic doesn't leach any toxic chemicals or into our waterways, into our soils, or into the air, uses 45% less energy, and releases 40% fewer carbon emissions. We have our Farming Systems Trial 40-year report on our website. You can go and download it. I'm happy to get that link directly to you all later. So since we started back in 1947, we were only based in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. In 2016, 2018, we started to expand throughout the United States, and now we have regional resource centers. We have one in the Poconos, so it's just north of Kutztown, where the headquarters are. We have one right outside of Atlanta, one in Cedar Rapids, one in Ventura, California, and last year, Cascadian Farm, owned by General Mills, gave us the original Cascadian Farm just 2 hours north of Seattle. And we also partnered with a wonderful company in Italy, and we now have a regional resource center in Parma, Italy as well. So all these regional resource centers are available for public use in terms of trying to help regional centers figure out best methods for regenerative organic agriculture in those areas. We started our consultancy in 2019. We started with one consultant. We now have 15 consultants serving 32 different states. These consultants, our original consultant rather, Sam Mallory, was underwritten by the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was the first state in the country to have a farm bill. This farm bill wrote in for Rodale Institute to help farmers transition to organic, because in Pennsylvania, they looked out at the landscape of rural agriculture and said, wow, those places where organic farmers are located, it's a healthier environment economically. So what can we do as a state to help grow more organic farmers? So the consultancy started with one person in 2019, as I mentioned, and now we have 15 serving 32 different states. And this is some of the team members. And again, these are the concentrations of where those consultants work. These are the areas of expertise for those consultants. But what's really exciting is for this area, here's the latest stats. Actually, since 2019, we have 33,000 acres in transition to organic. We have transitioned officially 4,000 acres. We have 236 farmer clients. We have 50 partners that are certified organic. And we have additional farmer touch points through all sorts of conferences, et cetera. But back to the consultants. These consultants in the Plain States, which is of course where we are right now, offer free consulting services to any farmer who's interested in any of the Plain States, with the exception, unfortunately, of Oklahoma. I'm not sure why that was excluded. But these consultants will go out and have a free farm site visit and then offer 10 hours of free remote consulting services. So if anybody is interested, or if you have anybody in your networks that is interested in transitioning to organic, either their entire operation or even just a crop, let me know and I can connect you with the consultant. The other pillar of Rodale Institute is education, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we have a robust education program at the Institute. Last year, we trained 20 future organic farmers. They come to the Institute, they stay with us from March through November. They have 60% classroom education, 40% in the ground, where they're out sowing and harvesting and of course weeding. But at the end of their time with us, they have enough knowledge to start their own organic operation. This is completely free. So it cost us $25,000 per student to educate them. And the reason I'm telling you again is if you have anybody in your networks who's interested in coming to the Institute, we provide lodging, we provide food, we give a livable wage, and of course, an incredible curriculum. And this is just a little bit more of the synopsis of the educational program. We also, so we have our RIFT program, but then the veteran farming program, and the GI Bill covers the tuition for those farmers who had served in the military. And that's just our capital campaign that we've just launched. I'm sorry, those slides, I didn't realize I put them in the deck, but yeah, Rodale Institute launched a capital campaign a couple of years ago. I mention it only because we're working on trying to erect a science building momentarily. It's on the way. And that's it. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, I'll be around during lunch to, yes.
One of the things to tell people about is your email system that you use. You know, I'm an organic farmer. I get emails virtually all the time from Rodale. It's just an incredible resource, you know, to learn. And they come free to us. So could you talk about that a little bit? Or?
Right, we have a virtual campus, so we have lots of webinars online. The email, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, we do have a robust email campaign that goes on throughout the year that educates folks on the work that we're doing and then the work that we know that others are doing within the world of regenerative organic
To really
agriculture.
benefit farmers is the point.
Right.
We're not going to school. We don't know about that. Your information comes out, and I'm just acknowledging you.
Thank you.
I've probably been getting that for 20 years, maybe longer than that. So.
Well, terrific. Thank you.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about you've been doing the longest study?
The longest side-by-side trial, the farming systems trial. And what I didn't talk about was we also have a vegetable systems trial that we started 7 years ago. And again, it's comparing side-by-side organic versus conventional, but its focus is on vegetables instead of grain crops. And we're looking, of course, at soil health, but the other thing that we're looking at is nutrient density. So I know Jean talked about that a little bit, but what we're finding is, in fact, that organically produced fruits and vegetables are in fact higher in nutrients than chemical. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any kind of conclusion as why it's doing that then? Why is it producing more nutrients in organic farming?
Soil.
Richer soil.
Richer soil, the soil health, yeah, for
It's
sure.
not a complete focus on maximizing yield and sacrificing everything else.
It's kind of like one of my scientists told me, he said it's like junk food. So chemical farming, it's just, junk inputs. So if you're eating junk food all the time, you're not going to be healthy. In the same way, organic soil, we're feeding it what it needs. And those nutrients then translate into the health of the food that it's produced. And then we ingest it and are healthier.
I think we have one more speaker and then we actually have some lunch for everyone. And if people want to come back in, we can have everybody introduce themselves.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, as you mentioned, one last speaker. We have from the CDA, Kristen Boysen, the Drought and Climate Specialist. She supports, incentivizes sustainable working lands, increasing multi-benefit habitat projects, ecological processes, and adapt to climate change. Kristen has experience with policy development and analysis, stakeholder engagement and facilitation, as well as program design, technical research, and tool development, and negotiating different land deals across the state. Nothing else.
Wow.
Well, with that, here's Kristen.
Thank you all for having me. As McLean said, I'm with the Colorado Department of Agriculture. I run our Agricultural Drought and Climate Resilience Office, which is a long name, and so we shorten it to ADCRO. We love our acronyms in government.
You wanna grab that clicker?
Oh, look at this. And today I'm going to talk briefly about Colorado climate, how's it changing, and how farmers like you all are going to help us out. So I'm not going to doom and gloom either. I work in climate because I think there's a lot of opportunities. And I work in ag because I think it's a huge part of the solution. But just for some level setting, this is a figure that McKinsey and Company Consulting put together for the state, just looking at climate impacts based on the 2 degrees warming that we're kind of projected to see over the next 100 years. So I want to flag this kind of heat up here, first row, and up especially in the northern plains, southern plains, and Front Range. This is, of course, the plains are our major agricultural region in Colorado. We have Grand Valley too, in San Luis Valley. You can see they have a pretty big increase in this days above 95 degrees. So everybody's increasing that kind of very hot temperature. But our big kind of commodity crops and livestock region is going to add, 20 more days of that really warm temperatures. Everybody knows hot atmosphere means drier atmosphere, thirstier atmosphere. So we're also increasing that drought, which is down here. Colorado, we've had drought, we have historical droughts. We just got out of a very long, very severe drought. Our producers know how to deal with it, but when the droughts start to last years instead of 1 or 2 years, when they start to be extreme constantly instead of moderate, it's just kind of hard to go back to that normal. There's fewer recovery periods in between droughts. Also, this is of interest just in general. They measure fire in this fire weather index, which is like a combination of temperature and humidity and wind speeds. So those fire days are also going to go up across the state. So bummer. But it's not all bad. Our farmers are very resilient. They've dealt with a lot of stuff. They deal with weather and decisions every day. You guys know, you go out, you check the weather report, you see what the rain gauge says, and you can modify your practices. And we've survived up to now, and I see a good future. So we at CDA and in Colorado really think agriculture is one of our key benefits of the state. It's a great economic driver. The community is robust. Our rural communities are really what make our state special. And their farmers are excellent stewards of their land. We don't want to discount that. So Jean's right, ag is not going to save the day. Our forests are not going to save the day, but keeping agricultural land in agriculture is kind of the top priority for CDA. Keeping ag in ag reduces intense development, it reduces sprawl, which is more energy intensive, more human intensive than keeping it as cropland or rangeland. And there's all those benefits that come along with open space and working lands, including keeping water in the ground and not running off, including keeping carbon in the ground and not running off, including habitat corridors and pollinator habitat, and economies for humans and food for us to eat. So many good things. Also important, like we've just been hearing, soil management is critical. It keeps water in the ground, keeps carbon in the ground, and reduces some of this pollution runoff we've been hearing about. As Jean said, carbon sequestration is kind of like the buzzword right now. Everybody loves to talk about soils and carbon, but we in Colorado, because we're arid, because we don't have that deep, loamy soil that they have in the Midwest, we really think like water is just as important, if not more important here. So they go hand in hand, but it's going to help our agricultural systems to keep that water around. And finally, reducing inputs of agriculture, reducing our pesticides and fertilizers like you all are thinking about today in this organic conference, just reduces general methane and nitrous oxide emissions. So another kind of bonus. I'm going to talk about 4 of our priorities at the department. Soil health, everyone loves. We're going to talk about water, everybody loves it. Energy efficiency, which is a key component of any operation and an important cost driver for like your revenue. And then kind of what my work in thinking about ag and statewide and federal climate policies. I'll zip through the soil health stuff because we've just been hearing about it and I know lunch is outside. The soil health practices, be it no-till or reduced till, cover cropping, the wide variety of things we've talked about, including incorporating livestock and rangeland management. It reduces emissions from equipment use. If you're not tilling your ground all the time, you're reducing that diesel emissions. Also reduce emissions from fertilizer use. And then we're capturing that carbon in the soil and increasing water retention. So we're both kind of, in the climate world, we talk about reducing emissions as mitigation and capturing carbon and keeping ecosystems robust as adaptation. So we have both sides of the puzzle, the mitigation side and the climate adaptation side. Again, we love the soil's benefit to our water retention because of those drought numbers we saw earlier, because how important water is to our ag communities. Whether you're irrigating or your dry land or your rangeland, people are always keeping an eye on that water. It's really important for the yields and health of our livestock. I think you guys have heard all this and know it in your bones. Healthy soils soak up water faster, so that reduces runoff and erosions. It keeps water longer, that sponge effect that Jean talked about. So in short, it increases infiltration and reduces runoff. I put this little dollar sign on my slides anytime I talk about a grant program that we offer at the Department of Ag. So Jean kept talking about the Climate Smart Commodities Program, which we at the Department of Ag got $25 million to expand our soil health program, our STAR Plus program. So right now we're enrolling producers who are interested in trying out new soil health practices. It can be one practice, it can be 5 practices, whatever you all are interested in, and we'll provide technical support and match to any money you spend. So if you're interested, talk to me today or email me later. Yep. Moving on to water. Water is obviously a hot button issue across the state. There's other agencies whose main focus is water. We have the Colorado Water Conservation Board, which many of you may be familiar with, as well as the Department of Water Resources. The Colorado Water Plan, which was just released this year, maybe 2022, has 4 goals, one of which is the sustain profitable production and robust agriculture in the state. So we worked very closely with the Water Conservation Board and the governor's office to kind of outline, like, what does that look like? What is the robust ag future, especially as we see dwindling water resources? So I won't go into that too much, but there's a whole plan out there. And we are working very closely with our agency partners and folks like you on the ground to actually manage water. There's a lot of resources for people thinking about water, and I'm just going to pitch a few. One is Master Irrigators, that's run through CSU, and that's I think a 10-week class, meeting a couple times a week, maybe once a week. That really talks about irrigation strategies, new technologies, working with folks to optimize their irrigation. Drought Advisors is run through CSU Extension, and they'll work with you one-on-one to come up with a drought plan. Their thinking is, when a drought comes, it's best to know kind of what your options are when you make those decisions, and not kind of fly by the seat of your pants, but instead to be like, okay, I know, like, if we're in this stage drought, then this is how I change my operation. Or if I see this on my irrigation canal levels, this is my response. So thinking that through in advance instead of, waiting to the stressful moment when you're wondering what the next day is going to bring. So they're a good, really good group of folks. I recommend reaching out to them for some technical support. Colorado Water Conservation Board, who's the main author of that water plan I just talked about, has grants, and they give out money every quarter for farmers to do kind of water smart projects on their property. And they have a lot of money right now, so use it. Let me know if you need help. And then finally, the Colorado Ag Water Alliance, or CAWA. Does anybody know CAWA? Greg Peterson?
Greg Peterson.
Yeah, that's a great organization. They get money both from the state and from the feds, again, to try out cool, innovative things on farms. So if you're thinking about lining a canal or fixing your head gate or trying a new irrigation system or sprinkler, CAWA is a good resource, both for like ideas and funding. I will also say, we at CBA are hiring our first ever ag water advisor right now. So next time this year, somebody else will be giving this presentation. I'll be here too. We'll be together. Finally, also in my portfolio is our energy efficiency and renewable energy. Like, I think climate smart ag really focuses on management, which is important, but how energy is used and created on ag is also critical. As Jean said, we gotta stop using fossil fuels. So if we can do that, especially if we can do that in a way that doesn't take ag land out of production, like I said, our first goal is keep farms farming and not pave them and turn them into solar arrays, better we can do. So first, briefly, is our Acre 3 program, which we run here out of the Department of Ag. It stands for Advancing Colorado's Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. That's the 3 E's. And we'll fund and provide technical support for on-farm renewable energy and efficiency projects. You want to put solar panels on your barn, or you want to put a little mini hydro power turbine in your canal, we'll help you out. We also just this year kind of started our agrivoltaics program. Agrivoltaics is just the co-location of solar on farms, thinking of ways you can both create food and fiber and generate energy instead of kind of our either or world that we live in right now. So multiple benefits on one parcel is always good news. And CSU is doing a ton of research on this right now. It's not for we can't do it everywhere. It does probably reduce yields just because it does reduce the amount of sunshine crops are getting. But if you place it carefully and you think about kind of how high do the panels need to be and how far apart should they go, it can be a really good multi-benefit opportunity. So we're about to fund 8 projects that are kind of research and demonstration of how these might work. They also have them here at Spur on top of Terra. So if you go on the tour, ask if you'll see them. They're growing Pueblo chilies underneath them. Finally, just briefly, we at the state and the state generally really thinks, as I said, ag is a big part of the climate puzzle, both on how we can reduce emissions from ag and how ag can work on that adaptation side. So statewide, we've developed this strategic plan for climate smart natural and working lands, croplands, rangelands, forests, wetlands, and urban open space. So that was just released this year. We're also currently updating our greenhouse gas pollution reduction roadmap, and it's open for public comment. So if you have any great ideas or want to tell me my ideas are bad, there's where you do it. Or good, I'll take good too. Finally, of course, there's lots of federal funding opportunities through the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. And we're trying to get as much of that money to Colorado as we can, to Colorado producers as we can. And the Farm Bill supposedly is going to be renegotiated this year, but I'll believe it when I see it. But I'm sending a lot of emails to our representatives. Thanks. I think that's all. There's me. Thanks very much.